There's not going to be anybody in this world, no legal strategist, no pundit, no scholar, no lawyer, no one that's going to be able to challenge what we're going to present, a plan that can eliminate child sexual slavery throughout this world within a week. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Tonight we're going to explain a detailed process that can be done in the United States of America. How the United States of America, if the people would only demand it of their government officials, it can be done in 1 week. We're going to explain how that's done. And then we make the challenge to anyone out there to tell us how this can't be implemented, why this isn't legal, according to the United States Constitution today. Why in the world, if there was a way to eliminate this devastating thing that's going on in this world, why wouldn't we do it? Why wouldn't the world at least take a look? We make that challenge, putting $100,000 behind the challenge. Because at the present time, how things work in the world, only the United States of America and its government can do what we're going to propose. They're the only ones on this planet that can do it. The United States can do it. So let's explain how. 7 days in a week. Day 1. The President of the United States has the authority, according to Article 2, Section 3 of the United States Constitution, that the President may, quote, on extraordinary occasions, convene both houses of Congress, or either of them, talking about the House of Representatives and the Senate. Would it not be proper? Listen, the people who came up with that Constitution, the framers, they understood that the government must be readily available and ready to meet emergency circumstances, and therefore they gave the President executive power, but very limited power, to make Congress convene, quote, on extraordinary occasions. All right? There's been fights and interpretations throughout the history of the United States Constitution. And every Supreme Court justice has ruled and talked about it. It said the president needs to they need to have special powers, especially to do things like conduct foreign relations effectively, to repel foreign aggressions, depredations, and direct hostilities. That's right. There's children being raped out there, excuse my language. There's children being raped because they need the money. They allow themselves, so it's not rape. They willingly give themselves to these men. If that is not an aggressive act of depredation and a direct hostility towards our humanity, I do not know what is. The President has the right to convene an immediate Congress. And when the President gives that order, it does not take any more than 12 hours, 1/2 of a day, for all of the U.S. Congress people and the senators to get their asses on airplanes and get to Washington, D.C. They'll be there, all of them, regardless of where they're at in the world, within 12 hours. Then they got the rest of the first day to debate and pass the emergency bill that the President is going to present. Okay, the Humanity Party will provide the President. Let's hypothetically suppose that we could convince President Donald Trump to do this. We'll provide him with the legal terms and the written bill. Because the President does not have the power, only Congress does. The President can't solve poverty. It's impossible. Only Congress can do that unless you change the Constitution. But we have a Constitution. We can work with it legally, and we can do what we're going to tell you to do. So, once you get all the Congress in session, this emergency session, because what if the United States was attacked terribly, and we had foreign invaders, boots on the ground by some foreign entity? You don't think there'd be an emergency session of Congress within hours, and they'd start declaring war and providing all the financial need by law? By law means that it meets the ramifications and parameters of the Constitution. That's what law is. That's what legal is. That becomes a law of the land. So, the Humanity Party provides the President with this bill. Here you go. Now call the damn extraordinary occasion, the emergency session of Congress, and get them here. Once they're there, here's the bill. Let's explain it very easy. It is a known fact for those of you who don't know how the financial systems of the world work. The United States law controls and manages all U.S. currency, and the United States dollar pretty much controls the world at this time. So the things that occur happen based around the establishment and the support of the United States currency. United Nations is basically funded by U.S. currency, the World Bank, the International Monetary Fund, and all these things. It comes from an act of Congress. The conspiratorialists out there who say, oh, no, this is all, there's 12 families involved. Bull. It's an act of Congress that has to do these things. That's how it works. Don't get caught up in all these controversies out there and conspiratorialist theories that just aren't true. We're going to tell you how to do it. Because the United States manages all the currency basically in the world, I want everybody to take out, if they got one available near them, one of their United States cash. $1, $5, $10, $20, $50, $100 bill. Take it out. Let's take a look at it. Let's take a look at what Congress has done, what they have the power to do. I happen to be holding in front of me a $20 Federal Reserve note. Piece of printed paper. That's all it is. A piece of printed paper. It's a voucher that is, and it says right on it, this note is legal tender for all debts, public and private. It's basically a voucher. Its worth is only what the United States Congress says it's worth, and more importantly, what the people in the world do or accept it as its worth. So in your hand, if you're holding a United States cash, you're holding a voucher. That's what you're holding. A voucher that's printed on paper. It's really worthless itself. It's not like gold. And I don't want to hear somebody calling up and saying we got to go back to the gold standard. That we've already settled. You can't go back to the gold standard. Because if you took all the gold in the world that's ever been mined and you divide it equally among all the people upon earth, a person's going to have a speck of gold in their hand. There's not enough of the mined gold to go around to perform the economic functions that are needed to provide goods and services and the transactions of a market system. It doesn't work. We're telling you how it's going to be done. The same voucher you're holding in your hand, the same cash, the special U.S. currency backed by United States law, what funds it? What guarantees this? What guarantees this note is legal tender for all debts, public and private? Used all around the world as cash. Anywhere in the world, any country will take your American dollars because they know they're worth something. You're an American. You travel anywhere. And remember, the top countries, Cambodia, Sri Lanka, Thailand, those places that have the highest per capita rates of child prostitution love American cash. They love these vouchers that we have that's backed by the law and power of the United States Congress, which includes the House of Representatives and the Senate. We are mandating by law through this bill that the United States Congress authorize the immediate printing of, we'll start out with 10 million vouchers, 10 million pieces of paper. In the bill, we're going to tell them this is what we're going to do. We're going to have our Federal Reserve print up these vouchers. They're going to look just like a piece of cash, but they're going to be a voucher. It's going to say this voucher is legal tender for all debts, public and private, associated, like we said, with all legal subsidies that the government's going to provide. And you can even put the act of Congress or the law, the bill that's been passed. They can have these vouchers made up in a day, easily. All they got to do is make it a law. So they issue these vouchers. Now the bill, what it has in it, a bill is it's a legal thing. It's a legal document. It tells you what can and can't happen. It basically will name, this is what the United States government is going to pay for. These are the goods and services that we're going to authorize that this legal tendered voucher is going to pay for. That the United States Treasury is going to back up. A piece of paper, okay? Housing, clothing, food, good healthy food, health and mental care, the choice of the person, and education. It's going to outline exactly what the goods and services are that this particular voucher will provide for. Okay, that'll take some time and some So we'll give them 12 hours. We'll give them the rest of the day, Congress, rest of the first day, to debate this thing. But we'll already have it outlined for them. We'll have the bill so easily and clearly detailed that all I got to do is look at it. Who in their right mind as a person or a senator is going to say, nope, I vote against that, man. I'm not going to do that. I don't want to end child prostitution. No way. No way. Because part of the bill is the bill has to outline who gets to disperse it. Okay, so the people who are going to disperse the vouchers to the prostitutes in the world of child prostitutes and their family are the organizations that are on the ground already. They're the boots on the ground. They're already there. You get them to UNICEF, Red Cross, United Nations Foundation, these religious groups that are the boots on the ground there. Most of them are volunteers who don't even get paid. The heads of their organizations are the ones that make the six figures, but the people on the ground are just good human beings like you and me who want to do something. All over the world, they're in every city, in every major city. They know where child prostitution is going on. All the U.S. Congress has to do is pass that bill on day one. Yay or nay? Just give us a yes or no. Do you want a child out there who's 12, 13-year-olds be an old man because they need to provide for their family? Yes or no? Don't give us your bull, your argument about, we can't go into debt, national debt. Don't give us that bull crap. Because you know damn well if there was anyone, any country, or let's say another planet of aliens maybe, invaded this world or invaded your country, you would print as much cash as you needed, as much as these legal tendered vouchers that we're all holding in our hands, to pay for what it would take to repel that invasion. You know you would. You've done it. That's what needs to be done. It'll always be done that way. The national debt is a ruse. It means nothing. It'll never be paid back. It doesn't need to for an economy to exist and perpetuate itself. Those who understand the economy will understand that. It's just the way the government makes you fear so that you'll vote for them. Yeah, vote for us. We're not going to telling you, you print these vouchers. Okay? So, that's day one. We get the Congress to pass the bill. Day two. The president issues an executive order. You will work your employees 24 hours a day around the clock to print these appropriate vouchers. So you got the Federal Reserve working. Their engineers can do it, no problem. But day two, they start working on it. We got to get these vouchers. We'll start with 10 million of them. 10 million vouchers that allows a person, it will be a kind of a book of vouchers for each individual, and they can use the vouchers to pay for specific things. Okay? You cannot give people cash. You do not give people cash. You do not give people cash. Again, you do not give the poor cash. They'll spend it on drugs. The black market will take that from them. You need to provide them with a voucher that they can only exchange for certain things, the basic necessities of life that you've outlined in the legal bill. Thus, these vouchers are legal tender that can be used throughout the world, the United States legal tender. So, they're creating these vouchers on day two. On day two also, the President of the United States calls an emergency worldwide press conference, and he outlines this new United States law. And more importantly, he is specifically, profoundly, and impassioned about the penalties associated with the law. One of the things in the bill is going to call on the special convenience of the United Nations and all other countries to issue a mandatory international inflation law that prohibits any business of any kind that provides the intended legal subsidies from raising their prices more than 1%. Per annum, per year, that's it. Because you know what would happen in any local economy. You give a 12-year-old and they get the book of these vouchers. Mom, look at this. We can go down to the store and buy all the food we need. Healthy food, not Snickers bar, not Twinkies, healthy food. You can imagine what that store owner is going to do. Oh, man, this is United States-backed vouchers. I'm going to raise my prices. Nope. The president needs to call this press conference, because guess what? We have the technology today, in one day, in an hour, for all the news agencies across this planet to interrupt their regularly broadcasted programs to bring the United States president on so he can say, we're going to end childhood prostitution with this plan. and he explains it. And he tells people this is what's going to happen. On all media venues, radio, television, newspaper, any venue that a person in this world might see. And the president's going to tell them point blank, because we don't have a president with the balls enough to say this, that there's no violation. If there's any violation or abuse of the emergency program, the law that we're incorporating in the United States, it will be punishable as a crime against humanity. And since the vouchers are legal property of the United States, any destruction thereof or misuse of said property will be considered an act of war against the United States of America. You with our program to end child prostitution in your country, you've just messed with us. The people are going to know. The people are then going to know. The prostitutes, the child, and the women are going to cheer and just say, oh my gosh, really? We can go down to these charitable organizations and get these United States-backed vouchers to pay for our food and our clothing and our housing and our health care and even education, where before we couldn't send our kids to school, and now we can. We have a voucher for it. The United States is going to pay. Day 3. We give them day 3 just to work on the process. Day 4, we'll give them 2. Come on, working on the process. Day 5, we ship out all the vouchers because they're going to be distributed by the Federal Reserve, who prints the vouchers by overnight mail, which you can get anything in any part of this world in a day. You can. You pay the right price, you can get it. We have the United States military can fly anything anywhere in this world in 24 hours. Day 6, these organizations receive all the vouchers. Day 7, they distribute the vouchers to every single person that might be forced into child prostitution. And we just ended forced child prostitution and slavery throughout this entire world. But we've also done something else as good people of the United States of America. We've put an influx of capital and money into your local economy, because you don't need to go to the charitable group down the street and get their donated stuff. You can go right to somebody that you know has better food than what you're provided for in that bowl of whatever it is that the UNICEF has given you. You can go down in the economies, and that are going to flourish. The local economies and institutions will be forced out of necessity and greed and love for the American dollar to create an infrastructure and economic platform that provides for these things on a local basis. And poverty will begin to end. We're just dealing with child prostitution here. But likewise, we can end poverty. This plan would work, folks. Why? We just said this is how it can happen legally. There is no lawyer, no politician, no pundit, nobody that can say that we couldn't do this by law, by the United States Constitution that we have in place today. This radio broadcast, recorded and archived, and condemn this world if they do not move, especially the United States of America. Because at the present time, how things work in the world, only the United States of America and its government can do what we're going to propose.